Welcome to SML Total Access, where we break down news, predictions, and more in our Madden League. Now, let's get fired up for SML football.
Hello and welcome back to SML Total Access. I am Primetime 000, joined by Matt and Dan. How's it going, fellas?
Doing good.
And we're
doing
back.
good.
Nice of Dan to join us. Make time for us.
Yes, Dan, so busy.
Every once in a while.
Hey, guys. First down, if you guys aren't familiar with our show, we do 4 downs and an extra point. So let's start with first down. First topic of the day. What SML member has the most to prove for this season, season 61? We're already close to the playoffs, which shocks me. I feel like this season's kind of gone by quickly. But, hey, what do you guys think? Who's got the most to prove?
You know, I think it's not only this season. He's my most approved this season, but I think he's my most approved for the rest of the seasons, barring a Super Bowl win, and that's Dump. You know, he at the start of this cycle, no matter what he says, he took, in my opinion, the second best team in the game. In my opinion, the best team for the SML because we play for so long. They were set up perfectly for what we do. And if you disagree with that, you got to put him in the top 5 or so. He's hit the gold mine on the training devs. He has more than anybody. He got more in 1 week than a lot of guys get in a season, or maybe have gotten all cycle. He got 2 in 1 week. He gets them all the time. His team is as good as it gets. It just doesn't get any better. He's got the set feet lead. He's got the receivers. He's got the running back. He's got the defense. And he's playing really well. And the thing with Dump is when he plays well, he talks, right? When he doesn't play well, that's when he starts to say, I'm just not good enough. I can't do it. I think, he just lost his most recent game, and I don't know what started it, but he said Dan must have chirped at him, and he said something like, another first-round exit for Dan or something. So he'll chirp back. He's made that one Super Bowl back when he had Escape Artist in a weak NFC, and, he didn't quite get over the hump. But in my opinion, it's got to be Dump. Everything that happened with Doink, with getting set feet lead, super team, he went and won it. And that's what you have to do. And Dump has the super team. He's got no excuses. He's got to win it.
It's good.
Yeah, that's a good one, Matt. I like that. I like that. And yeah, he was chirping at me because even though he's got that super team, he's lost 6 straight games to me. And
Wow.
I know that that's affecting him there a little bit there. So hey, that's fine. That's fine. We'll set it on the field a little bit. But I'm going to go to the NFC, and I'm going to go with Bomber. And I go with Bomber just because of the way that the last season ended. He didn't get a chance to play, and I think he really feels that he can beat Doink. I think he thinks Doink is not as good as the Super Bowl win, and I think that really got under his skin. And I think Doink versus Bomber in the playoffs. They might play a little bit earlier because of Bomber losing a few games. Maybe they could match up in the wild card in the playoffs sometimes. But man, I would love to see Bomber just go up and just kind of put it to rest and put that to end the way that last season ended. It just I think left a really just a sour taste in his mouth, and he wants to go out there. So it's not about necessarily winning. As I read this question, kind of who has the most to prove. I think Bomber wants to prove to the SML that he can beat Doink, and I'm hoping and I'm praying that they match up in the playoffs.
That'd be a fun matchup for sure. For me, just to preface this, I think greatness in the SML is often defined by guys who can consistently be great cycle to cycle. Even if they don't win a Sombardi necessarily. Just consistently for example, you look at Meats, he's typically a top 7, top 8 player consistently every cycle. Maybe not good enough to win it, but you don't see much fluctuation in that. Noel, you see he was with the Browns last year. I'm not trying to pick on Noel, but he had a really good team last year. This year, not so much, and I think he's only got 1 win this season. Noel, I think, made a top 5 player list of last cycle, voted on by the players. And, so guys who would have just joined would think the SML is full of plumbers, I guess, last cycle, but based on some people's logic. But, for me, when I think about that, I think about Dan, and I think about he made the Super Bowl, and I think he wants to get back. I think every cycle he's been in the SML, he's won a championship, and I think he wants to prove that, some of the birds that are chirping about the cliff theory, how he's kind of hit that cliff. I think he wants to get one and continue a streak of 1 per cycle at least. And so I would say Dan.
All right. I hear it.
Yeah, and one thing about Noel I want to touch on, he had a really good ability, right? Freight Train was
Yeah.
extremely good last year. You could hit X and hold up on the stick. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that as we go on.
Oh, and let's move on now. Second down. Dan, unless if you wanted to rebut. Did you want to say anything about that? I wasn't trying to be too harsh on you, but anything to say?
No. That's fair. That's
Okay.
fair. I actually think, I mean, if I take a little side note, I think, up until last season, my playoffs have been pretty good, making three straight AFC Championship games. But I faulted in some of the bigger games, and obviously that's what people remember. So
Yeah.
I'm going to take note of it. It's a receipt. I'll put it in the back pocket. We'll see how it goes.
Let's go. It's good. So let's move on to second down. What is your favorite Madden memory? Maybe SML, maybe not, maybe both. I don't know. Dan, we'll start with you.
Oh man, I've got some just classic, overtime games where you think you're going to lose and then you come back to win. I don't know if I'm just going to be a product of just the recent, but man, I don't know if you guys caught the Torque Filthy game just about two nights ago.
Uh-huh.
I think Filthy was down 16 with like maybe under 3 minutes and gets a touchdown. It might even be less than that, maybe under 2 minutes. Gets a touchdown, gets a 2-point conversion, gets the ball back to Torque. Torque starts kneeling it out with a minute and a half, even though Filthy has two timeouts. No, I'm not sure why. And then Filthy gets the ball back with 40 seconds, down 8. Gets the ball down to, I think, his 17 or 18 maybe, with like 3 seconds left, calls a play, and just nothing open. So he takes off running with his quarterback from the 17-yard line. Gets to the 3-yard line. There's 3 defenders there, and he goes for the leap or the dive into the end
John
zone.
Elway.
And dives over 3 guys into the end zone. Gets the 2-point conversion. Gets the toss to win it or to get the ball in overtime, and then has a sack fumble, loses the game. I mean, it's not a great memory. It's not like, but it's just one of those things that's like, this is kind of why we play Madden. It is the fun, it's the competition, it's the unknown, it's the battling back, and then your heart gets ripped right out from you.
Yes.
I mean, it was just one of those kind of games that I was like, it was like 11:30, maybe even later, midnight, and I'm watching this game, and I'm just like, man, this is awesome, this is great.
That's cool.
Not one of my favorite ones, but just a memory that was recent.
That's cool, Matt.
Yeah, Dan brings that. I mean, the nice thing with the parity and the competition level of the SML, it feels like this changes almost every advance, right? I mean, there's always something crazy or some really close, really good game. I mean, Bombers random audible to a QB draw or whatever against Straw, and he runs 60 yards or something for a game-winning touchdown with 3 seconds left. I mean, it's just crazy, and that just floods your memory, right? But I think for me, not to get sentimental, but outside of just in the actual game, I think it's the relationships that you make along the way, right? Like I came in, I've known Mike, RD, Finns, Coop. I've known these guys for a large percentage of my life. And when you really think about that, and the fact that when you're having a bad day, you can just hop in the chat and somebody posts something really stupid and it just makes you laugh. So those are the things that I always remember and what I always like, whether the game is good or bad. Hey, the relationships that we make along the way. But for me, my in-game one, man, I got this clip saved on my phone. Prime knows I show it to him every now and then. But when Total Access, when I was not a part of it back in, I think it was my first year when I was the Patriots, PJ's Patriots, and Prime, before him and I shook hands and buried the hatchet, there's a clip. He says, Matt's not a real contender. We're gonna flood him in the playoffs or something. And then I happened to make the playoffs, and I could never quite get over the hump of beating Dan's Broncos and Prime. Finally did it, got into the Super Bowl. I ended up losing to Faz, but for me, it was just having that clip of Prime saying that and then winning it and editing it into a video with the Undertaker gong of the scores from Daddy Leagues.
Yeah.
I don't know. I always will remember that. That was a fun run for me, even though it ended a little short.
I think you lit a candle before the kickoff of the game, and I was like, oh, man, this guy posted a video. I was like, this guy I'm in trouble. Well, I knew at that point I was in trouble. But for me, I remember like 3 Maddens ago now, maybe 4, who knows how long it's been. But there was a point when former SML member WFT Gamepad. Was anybody in the league? I don't know if any of you guys were in the league with him, but but he had this Redskins team at the time. It was the Redskins, and it was right when Ability started, I think it was. And he built this team that was like a super team. And Chase Young and I don't even know who else the other defensive end was, would get literally pressure in like a second. 1 second, and it was just he didn't even have to blitz or anything. Well, he had to retire from the league because of medical condition, so we got Sunday Squad in the league. And this is when Paulie was peak with the truth, like once every 2 or 3 weeks, and he had built up Sunday to be this villain. And I play him in the Super Bowl, and Sunday's unbeaten, and I'm winning this whole game, the whole entire game. Then I lose on the tip Memorial Day Miracle, and I'm disgusted. I want to retire forever from Madden. And then I play him again in the Super Bowl with Andrew Luck, who was like 75 overall. It was my last game with Andrew Luck because he had retired in real life. And I slayed the dragon. I beat Sunday by 3 touchdowns. And with Andrew Luck, my last game with Andrew Luck. And it was like, I never have to freaking win another Simbardi again. Like that was my crowning moment because the truth was on my case. All these people thought I was going to lose, and I pulled it off. That was I still look back, and that's my favorite Simbardi, and it probably always will be. But let's move on now to something more controversial. Now that we got the happiness out of the way, what is your take on scheduling? I know that we have the scheduling eval score, and you guys help with evals, but outside of that, like sometimes games get scheduled the last day and they get heat and chat for it. If it, let's say we haven't even advanced yet and somebody might schedule it for like the last 2 hours in advance on the next advance. What's your guys' thoughts on that and just the scheduling culture in the SML in general? I guess we'll start with Matt.
Yeah, hey, here's the thing, and I have to remind myself of this too. It's a 48-hour advance. If you play an hour 47 and you get your game done at 47:45, you're within the 48-hour advance, right? And I totally understand life happens, and sometimes that's just the way it has to be. I think what people struggle with is we just advanced, and now there's a game scheduled right before the next advance, and that's like, okay, did you guys even try? Is this intentional? And I think where it starts to become an issue is when it's the same person. Is this person intentionally doing it just to, a lot of people intentionally do things in this league to be a brat, if you will, and a lack of a better word there. But are they doing it just to be annoying, or do they literally need to play then? At the end of the day, for me with scheduling, all I ask from my opponent and from everybody else, be active in your scheduling. The thing I would much rather 1 minute after Prime posts the league updates that there be a 9 p.m. game on advance day than a game that's not even scheduled and nobody has any idea what's going on.
Yeah.
Or there's a game not scheduled and you tag them and say, what's going on? And they say, oh, we're playing at 6 p.m. tomorrow. It's like, okay, well, tell us that because that allows people to schedule the next game, right? A lot of us try to be a little bit proactive, especially if you have something coming up. Hey, man, I'm going to be out of town this day. Can you play in this window? But if you don't know what your timing window is to play, it gets really frustrating. So I give credit to the guys who schedule, even if it's last minute, versus the guys who just leave us in the dark. Because if you leave us in the dark and then you schedule last minute, oh boy, now you've really got the usual suspect gifts coming out. And the number one thing I hate, if you schedule last minute and then the game doesn't get played,
yeah, that's bad.
That really grinds my gears because we waited all this time for you to not end up playing the last minute when we could have advanced, and now maybe there's a multitude of games that have been pushed a day or two. So just communicate, people. It's not that hard. We all have cell phones. Discord is easy to get on. Just say something. That's all I ask.
Dan, what do you think?
I easily echo kind of what Matt's saying about communication. I would just also add to it, if you're the guy that has the tighter window, the less flexibility, just be more on the gracious side of things. Realize that maybe someone else is adjusting their schedule to fit yours. And, we all have to do that at times. Sometimes I got to play really late. Sometimes I got to take my, stuff to the office and play. And hey, that happens. I get that. But kind of don't be the jerk about it. Don't be well, this is what I did and this is what I said. And, you got to fit into my life. Just kind of be understanding and say, hey, I got a tough schedule and appreciate it. And thanks for doing that. I've had many guys that have said that to me, and you know what, I'll do it because of the good of the league and the good of other people. And, And I have no problem doing that. It's the guys that are like, well, I got this 1 hour window in 48 hours, and you better match it, or you know what, I'm gonna be difficult about it. And that's the stuff that kind of irks me after a while. So if you got a tight window, just acknowledge it, own it, and then be gracious about it.
Yeah, no, that's good. I think you guys make great points. To me, when I look at the scheduling, obviously a couple considerations. Everyone's in a different life stage in this league. You have guys who are married, who are have new kids, and they're trying to be active parents. You have guys with multiple jobs. You have guys everywhere in between, single guys who don't have anything going on. Um, so everyone has a different level of busy and a different level of schedule. And also everyone has a different level of, I don't know how to word this, like mental toughness to where they can say, hey, actually, yeah, I could schedule this. Yeah, my day might be a little full, but for like Dan said, for the good of the league, I'll do this and tough through this just to get this 45-minute game out of the way and make things a little more smooth. I think Matt's point of just overly communicating, and if you know, like, hey, you know what, I'm a guy who actually has a lot of stuff going on. I don't have the same flexibility as some of these guys. I'm going to make it a point to over communicate and say, hey, look, you know what, I don't really need to apologize, but sorry sorry, this is what it is. I have a full-time job. This is the best I can do, and I'm just trying to get my game played, and this is just, it is what it is. I'm sorry, but like Matt said, lack of communication is where it really becomes an issue. Lack of communication, then the game not getting played that's a pet peeve of mine. Yeah, that's all I really have to say about that, I think. Let's move on. Fourth down. Spread the love. Who are we spreading our love on? And Dan, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think you're going to bring up some of these guys here towards the end, so I don't want to steal some of their thunder. But I'm actually going to go to AJ. AJ's a guy in here that if he would probably be honest, he would say that this has probably been a rough cycle for him so far. He probably views himself as a playoff contender, and I don't know if he's made the playoffs. He maybe once or twice, but
Yeah.
not as much as he'd like. And he just keeps battling. He's right there in the mix of it for the NFC. He's kind of what I think is the strength of the SML is that middle core. Okay, you're always going to have kind of your top and the guys at the bottom, but that middle core that can just kind of rise up and battle and give a game every single time they go out there and help the league and especially from a guy that wants to do better. AJ's been nothing but just a positive influence, just a good guy, just a huge asset to the SL community. So, AJ, I see your record there. I see your score. This isn't because I'm playing you in 2 weeks, but this is just because I appreciate who you are and keep it up, man.
Wow. Matt?
Yeah, I'm going to spread my love on myself, but also on the two of you and Total Access because, hey, when we were talking about set feet lead the last time we were on the show, we were right. Doink lost it for 4 weeks. He went 2-2. And we've talked about how before he got set feet lead, I don't remember really talking about Doink in any of the seasons. He missed the playoffs, the cycle, or the season before. And honestly, Gilbert and Noel are basically free wins this cycle. And no offense to them, he's in one of the easier divisions. He gets 4 free wins. I've got a pause here on his game against Torque. Baker Mayfield, 5 for 10, 89 yards, 1 interception
Wow.
with 7 seconds left in the second quarter. Against Meats, Baker Mayfield, 3 for 8, 13 yards, 1 interception, 10 seconds left in the second quarter. So I think what you're seeing here is that, yes, Doink can win without set feet lead, but he's human without set feet lead. So I just want to say, we called it. We were right. We knew we were right, but sometimes things got to play out for other people to recognize yourself. Off of that, I'm going to go with, because I don't want to pick on Doink over and over and over. I'm going to go with Fig. Hey, this guy is 7-4. Started out 0-3. I honestly didn't know that part until I was prepping for the show. Started out 0-3, reeled off 4 straight. Okay. Gilbert, KJ, 2-step, but he beat Torque. KJ got a little bit of revenge, but then he beat Fins, KP, and Bean. His most recent win is a win over Bean. So, hey, he's 1 game back. He's a 7-4. Bean is, I think, 8 or 9-3. So he's a game and a half back, making a little bit of noise. He's got Tony Pollard. Hey, maybe Fig is going to make the playoffs.
That's good. No, Fig is doing well. For me, for my spread the love, I want to spread the love to KP. Actually, I've kind of given him some heat the last season and a half since he's joined, and he's kind of given some back. And I've kind of drive the wedge in his rib a little bit if I get a win, and I've won both times this year. And he doesn't get personal, doesn't get angry in chat and cause a stir. He's not soft. He's not a delicate. He's not a delicate flower. He's not an egomaniac. He just he could take it and he could give it back, and it's just fine. And it's not an emotional thing. Sometimes you have to be careful with egomaniacs who are usually good players. And KP's not that. And I actually appreciate that. And I think he's a really good player actually, and I think he'll be a good player for a long time. Let's move on. Extra point. And we're actually going to do something different this time around. I asked Matt if I could step in, so I decided to step in here for a prime 5. And I decided to do the 5 biggest turnarounds this season. Number 5, I have double rice, no bean. Missed the playoffs last year. KJ won his division, but I didn't think it was too crazy of a turnaround. He was really busy last season, and it caused him just to not be sharp. So I wasn't too surprised by this turnaround. Number 4 is Woods. Woods missed the playoffs last year. Now he's 10-1, I think, at the time of recording this. He's back. He is a Simbardi champion this cycle, so I didn't want to put him too high on the list because he has won a Simbardi. And he's still got some tough games to go, but I think Woods' turnaround is impressive. Number 3 is Fig Newton. Like you said, Matt, there's been some people who've called Fig the worst player in the league, the worst GM in the league. He's gotten past that, and he's fighting for I think the number 7 seed right now. I think he'd make the playoffs if the season ended today. That's impressive. Number 2, Coach P, Coach Pauly. Listen, Pauly has made. I don't think he's made the playoffs this cycle. At the end of I think he only made the playoffs once or twice the last cycle. People said, threw the tanking thing in his face, and he just wasn't good. But now, coaching's over for the year. It's kind of winter time. He's getting dialed in, and Coach Pauly, I think he's leading his division right now, which is impressive. I respect Pauly. And number 1, a guy who is unbeaten when you factor out the set feet lead loss he has. Prime time 000. I love me some me. Missed the playoffs last year. Now the best record in the SML. Unbeaten if he hasn't played a set feet lead Falcons team. Really impressive. What do you guys think about that list?
It's tough to argue. That would be my list.
Your schedule's been soft. You haven't had to play me. You haven't had to play Dump. You haven't had to play QP. You got a soft schedule. It's a third place schedule. I expected everything to what you're doing. Let's see what happens big boy time, playoff season. I think you're going to win 1 and get bounced. You
know what's interesting, Dan? You have 3 losses this year. You know who 2 of your losses are to? You know who 2 of your losses are to? The Rams and the Patriots. You know who also played the Rams and the Patriots? The Colts.
So we're going to play this game now? Like who?
Well, if we're talking about schedule.
The last 3 times we played. What's happened the last 3 times we played? You're 0-3 against me.
Hey, when's the last time you won Simbardi? We talking about regular season. We talking about practice. We talking about practice. Let's.
You're 0-3 against me.
Make the conference championship. Make the conference championship.
Your schedule is soft.
You're washed. You're washed. You're like a Tide Pod.
You don't know how to beat set feet elite. So how are you going to get through the AFC?
I beat wine. I beat the wine.
You just admitted he has set feet something else.
It's the same thing. It's the same. It's the same thing.
No, he has the same thing.
You don't even know what you're talking about.
Set feet lead or something like that.
We'll see. Hey, I got you. I got you in my sights.
You can't beat Q. You can't beat Dump. Okay.
I'm 4-1 in my last 5 games against Q. He's easy.
Okay, let's make a deal then. You beat Q and I'll beat Dump and we'll play in the
Deal. I have no problem with that. Let's freaking beat up, baby. Okay. You got to come to Lucas Oil and the 22 banners above you. You ain't going to stand a chance. I've eaten steaks tougher.
I have you completely figured out this cycle. You're done. You're washed with me.
We'll see. I love it. Matt, you got anything to close us out?
No, I was just going to say that's a great list. I mean, it's hard to argue. I would assume that everybody listening probably agrees that you're the best player. You have had the best comeback, and you don't have the abilities. You had JT for you didn't even have him for 6 games.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
And Dan always says, "Oh, he's got JT. You didn't even have him."
Yeah. Dan, what's your response to that, Dan? Nothing.
I told you already. I respect your every win you had without JT. That was impressive. I'll give you that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I call a spade a spade.
I appreciate
You
that.
still can't beat me.
Hey, we'll see about that. I love it. Guys, that is SML Total Access. There are some receipts ready for this show. I love it. Guys, get ready for the playoffs. Things are heating up. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.